At Gretna, he was nicknamed Dr. Goals, and Jeff Stelling would mention his gran most weekends on Sky Sports Soccer Saturday. I'm Gareth Law, and he is, of course, Kenny Deuchar. Kenny, welcome to Cult Heroes.
Thanks, Gareth. Great to be on this. Brilliant.
Thanks for inviting us out to your GP practice at Denny Cross Medical Centre here. I think when you played, obviously, people called you the good doctor, but I guess nowadays you're actually a good doctor.
Well, I mean, I think people watching this, maybe some of my patients might be wondering how you managed to get an appointment with me. That's what I'm always getting asked. How do you get an appointment with the GP? But no, I think I enjoy my job, obviously, and try to look after our patients as best we can. I've lived in Denny my whole life, and it's kind of I'm part of the community anyway. So obviously, I want to do a good job. My dad worked here before, so yeah, I think I do a good job. Hopefully my patients will agree.
How soon did you become aware of this interest in you, or the following that then became, that you were the as we said at the start, Dr. Goals or the good doctor was quickly became coined, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my grandma started telling me, because obviously I was playing football. Jeff Stelling and Soccer Saturday at that time wasn't actually that big a thing back then. It was kind of just growing, like getting going. In fact, Jeff Stelling didn't really become the main, although everybody loved him. I don't think Sky loved him as much as what the whole it took Sky a wee bit longer to realise, because actually when I went down a couple of years later to England, to Northampton, it was like a Monday night League One Northampton game against Brentford, and it was live on Sky, and Jeff Stelling had been sent to be like the main
to cover it.
And like he came and introduced himself, and I was thinking, why is he doing a wee game like this?
Yeah.
But
maybe he was there because you were there.
Oh, maybe I doubt it. But yeah, so I think it was my grandma was saying to me this Sky, because I wasn't really aware of the Sky Sports thing. My grandma had said, "Oh, Jeff Stelling says your name all the time, like blah blah blah." And she'd pull her seat in front of the telly, right up close, and all the rest of it. And it was coming up to like December, and I had obviously scored quite a few goals, and my grandma was telling me every day what Jeff was saying about me and that. And so I wrote him a letter, and I did a photo, signed the photo, sent it into Sky Sports. I said to Jeff Stelling, see if I score again, would you give my grandma a mention? Would you give her a surprise? Never said anything to my grandma. And then it was like, I think it was New Year's Day, maybe. We were playing at Montrose, and I think I had scored. And he says, Kenny Deuchar scored again, and that gives me a chance to do this. And he held up the photo that I'd sent him of me celebrating a goal, signed, and he says, and he's written it, and he read out the letter, kind of what I had written about my grandma, and he says, well, May, your grandson's done it again. And then for that moment, he would, every time I scored, he would mention my grandma. I mean, my mum's nose was out of joint, to be honest, because she wasn't getting any mention. My grandma, which is my mum's mother-in-law, she was getting all the attention. And then they sent a film crew up to see my grandma, so that she could walk them through her Saturday routine, and she became a wee bit of a kind of celebrity on Sky Sports. They come to interview her maybe 2 or 3 times along with me, and over the years, and I text the guy called Johnny Phillips, who I had dealings with through Sky when my grandma passed away about 10 years ago, and I text him to say, could you let Jeff know, unfortunately my grandma's passed away. So he's like told Jeff, and then on the Saturday there's like a Granny May's best bits. So they actually made up like a montage.
Oh really?
Like bits for like my grandma like meeting Jeff at like the Sky call centre in Livingston when he was opening one there, in our thing we interview and that, and it was like Paul Merson, the boy Thompson, Charlie Nicholas and all that, and it cut to the break, and not it's normally the Gillette like jingle thing, music, silence,
Black screen.
Granny May, 1923 to 2014 or whatever. I was like, oh my God. Sky Sports, unbelievable.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Just a nice wee touch, like funny, like sad but funny. And she got a mention in his book and all of that as well. So,
and you mentioned the Jag that he promised you, but by that stage you'd obviously had loan of his Aston Martin as well. Talk to us about Brooks. Talk to us about the Aston Martin experience and how. I mean, all footballers can grow attached to a football club, but there seemed like with him there seemed something a little bit extra.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a bit unpredictable, which was kind of a good thing. And actually, the first time he gave me, he'd made this big bravado about if somebody scores a hat trick, then he'll give us the Aston Martin for a week. And I was a wee bit perturbed because I had already scored a couple of hat tricks, but I wasn't getting given the Aston Martin in retrospect. So when we played against Elgin and he'd made this bravado about saying it, and I think he might have mentioned it in the press. So I was like, if I do this, there's no way he can go back.
It's in black and white.
He's going to have to follow through with this. I don't think he's fully thought this through, how much the insurance is going to be, whatever. But actually what happened in the Elgin game was I scored 2, and then there was one of the other goal we won. I think we won three goals we scored that game. I've run down the line and I've fired one across goal, and the defender's put it in his own net. And after the game, I think Brooks was just buzzing. We're through to the next round of the Scottish Cup, and he's like dangling the keys, like there's cameras, and because it was the Scottish Cup, he's dangling the keys, just like, I'm giving you the unofficial hat trick. And I was like, I'm actually going to get this Aston Martin. This is like crazy. And then he'd like give you petrol money, like to put petrol in the car and all that. And I think he couldn't let me drive away that day.
Yeah.
I think he had to go away and sort out the insurance and that. So it took a wee while, but that also allowed the press time to come down and take photos and for the handover and everything. And all the boys, I don't think they were so happy because the press were doing and Brooks was arriving late and they're all away training, and I'm like in this Aston Martin, no training. Again, there was a wee bit that going on. So yeah, I mean, but the whole overall, I mean, imagine that somebody gives you like a car that's like 150 grand
for a week
to drive about. A week, but I mean, over the course of the season, I had it like 4 times. I scored another like 4 hat tricks. So I mean, that was definitely an incentive. He also said, whoever's man of the match, I'm going to, because he had a jag.
Yep.
And he said, whoever gets man of the match, I'll give you my jag. So I think McGuffey had the jag, and then Gavin Skelton got the jag, and all the boys are like buzzing because I'm trying really hard because I'll get this like beautiful jag for a week. But he stopped it because Gavin Skelton had it, and he's went into Carlisle and it's parked like on a street and somebody reversed into it.
Is that right?
Aye, damaged it. So he was like, I've changed my mind about that idea.
Did you speak to Beckham when you played LA Galaxy? You scored against LA Galaxy, didn't you?
I scored. I asked him for. Well, I tell my boys that he asked for my top, but
did they believe you?
I think they know me better than that. But at the end of the game, I was standing right next to him when I shook his hand. I did ask for his top, but he was giving it to some female in the crowd. But when you were playing against these teams, if we went to another city or a team come to our city, normally it was a late game on a Saturday night, so there weren't any flights back out after the game's finished and all the kind of press and that's been done. So the flight would normally be back the next day for the other team, and or they would bring their whole squad, because it's difficult to play like reserve games. So players that aren't playing on the Saturday, the other team will bring their whole squad, including the reserve team players, and the subs and the reserve team players will play a game on the Sunday morning as like in the reserve league. And my well, you were over for that game, weren't you?
Yeah.
You were over for that game, and McGuffey and my best pal were over for that game as well. But they had arrived like the day before. They were jet lagged, knackered, and we just went back to my flat. But Beckham was out with all the boys, and like the two teams.
I was at the one in Salt Lake.
Aye, that was
the one in Salt Lake.
Aye, so both the teams, normally the guys know each other, and both teams go out with each other for a few beers that night. So my mate keeps going on about that was the night that David Beckham missed out on a night out with him. No, the other way about. Because football's always like part, like I still try to play a wee bit. I've played a wee bit over 35s, but it's just finding time to like stay fit and play and do yourself kind of justice. I feel as if I'm not able to do that anymore because I'm just not fit. I'm just trying to do a wee bit more now, but yeah, football's always going to be part of your personality, your character. Like people know me as like I played football. Like stuff. In fact, I was at the Arsenal Newcastle game, and the guy sitting next to me, I was just talking to him, and he's from Newcastle, but he was an Arsenal fan. He's like, all right, I'm Aidan. We had been talking about a few bits and pieces. I was like, oh, Kenny, and he was like, Deuchar. And I was like, aye. He's like, I used to sign you all the time on like Football Manager. So like, I mean, like a random thing, I would never expect somebody like that to, they're not going to recognise my face, but then like if you're talking and they put two and two together, some people will say that, and it's always, I used to sign you on Football Manager.
But it's strange, I mean, that's strange, but wherever you've been, again, talking about being a cult hero, you seem to have developed a connection with the fans. Why do you think that is? Is that because you were quite content to speak? You were often, in the press and comfortable with that side of things? Was it because you did what you said at Gretna? You took that feeling that the manager didn't rate you and turned that into, and you just worked really, really hard and made something of your career, and fans could look at you and think, the guy out there might not be, a world class player, but he's given his all for this team, and that's what a lot of fans want from their players. Yeah, I mean, and you scored goals.
Yeah, I mean, I think the goals definitely helped me because like I had deficiencies in most other areas, but then the goals keep you in the team. The goals are going to be like a positive for all people maybe detract about my other level of skills in other areas. But yeah, I mean, it helps if you're a striker and you score goals and you're playing in a successful team. Now, you maybe wouldn't get the same for fans like Hamilton, where I didn't manage to score a goal, or Stennismuir, or maybe even Falkirk. But like certainly when you play in a successful team, I always felt as if, when I was a kid, there were certain players that had time for you. I remember being at Brockville for Andy Nicol, who's he was a right back for Falkirk, like one of the heroes. His name's still up on the stadium and all the rest of it. Maybe nobody else in Scottish football other than Falkirk fans know who this guy is. And he had a testimonial at Brockville, and it would have been in like the late 80s probably. And we went along, it's against Hearts, I think. Hearts bring most of their first team. Playing for Falkirk, Graham Souness, Kenny Dalglish, these guys are like winning European Cups with Liverpool and all the rest of it. Rangers, and they're turning up for this guys and actually playing and kicking each other you'd never get that these days.
Yep.
And I just remember being such in awe, all those guys and on the pitch afterwards, and you're queuing up to get their autographs, and they're talking to you and being positive. And I always tried to do that with fans. I mean, I wasn't having as many fans to deal with. The most was maybe at Salt Lake, where you had appearances today. You'd have to go to the local sports store for the Boys and Girls Club, doing a trolley dash at the sports store and stuff, and you'd have your set you'd have to go and sit at the table and you would talk to, or they'd have like events and that. It was a lot more engaging over in America, but even when we're having things in Scotland, I always wanted to I enjoyed that, like I enjoyed that. It's a wee bit of an ego boost as well, if you're honest with yourself, like, you know, people like want to talk to you, so like why would I no want to talk to them? Like, it's only going to be a positive interaction, I would think. So no, I like that side of it. I liked you know, spend the time with the fans, and like it was like them dressing up as like doctors and nurses and all that. Like, that is amazing. That's amazing. Like, you're no asking for any of this, but it's all like positive, and it's things that I can look back with fond memories, and hopefully people that have come into contact with me, not just like people through the football, but patients, I'm hoping that they remember me in a positive light, because that's the way you want to be thought of, you know.
You still playing the bagpipes?
I have played them occasionally in the last couple of years, so I was really quite into it. I think when I started taking my boys' football team in like 2019, 2020, I had less time to do it, but I really enjoyed doing it. I've played at a few mates' weddings and things, and people have asked me to do things, and one of my best mates has asked me to play at his wedding in July, so I'm really going to have to practice. So I'm going to take my pipes up to call when I'm up there for a couple of weeks at a time. I'm going to really need to practice so that I don't embarrass myself at the wedding. But yeah, I mean, it's something really like to enjoy. Like, I've been to a few weddings where it's maybe been my wife's pal's wedding, and I didn't know so many people, and Sylvie said to her pal, "Oh, Kenny will play the pipes at your wedding." I'm like, what? I'm actually not that good. Like, don't put me under that pressure. And but then when you go, like, because you're playing the pipes, it's a common thing for people to come up to talk to you, ask you about the pipes, and then you get talking, and you're not just standing like that spare. Yeah. You know what, at the wedding, because you're there as a +1. So like it's good in that way when I've done that, and it's just I like it. Like, I only took it up 10 years ago. My dad had played. I
thought this was a thing you'd done since you were a kid.
No, my dad has played for 60 years. He was a very good piper, was a pipe major at Denny and Dunnipace when they were in the top grade in the world many years ago. And it was after my mum passed away, I just started learning just before she passed away. And then it was a good thing for me and my dad to do together. And we were in the band and like standing next to each other playing the band. We played at the World Championships. Like, it was a good social thing for me. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I like the fact that I can do it now. But I'm not at any great level. I would love to be better, but it's just like, to get better, you've got to spend the time on it. And like, I was spending a lot of time on it and I was getting better, but you know, I'm still way off. I can rattle out a few tunes. Like the last one I played, I had to play at the primary school Burn Supper, just like a few weeks ago, and they asked me to play. And the previous year they had asked me to play. My wee boy was actually in the P7 class so I was to go and eat the Burn Supper. So I made an excuse because I was so out of practice. I made an excuse. I was like, "Dad, would you do that for me, please?" And he did it. But this year I tried the same thing again. My dad was like, "Nah, you're going to have to do it yourself." So it was a bit like, I think it was my dad like pushing me to do something, like probably what he did a wee bit with the football and that, pushing me to do something that was out of my comfort zone, but he knew would be good for me. But he says, when I went and I turned up to play, the teacher said, "Oh, see, like last year, would you go into the P1 class and show them the bagpipes? Afterwards, we'll put the two classes together and you go in and talk to them about the bagpipes." And I was like, that was my dad that did that last year, but I'm happy to go and do it. Because I've played for the last 7 years because my kids have been going through the school, but I had never done that. And I went in and they put the two classes together, and the kids are like 5-year-old. And I think because they joined the classes, they were all really excited, like all the rest of it. And so you're telling a wee bit about the bagpipes, they're shouting out, they're putting their hands up, and like you say, right, has anybody got any questions? And all these hands shoot up and you ask them, and they've no got a question. they think they've got a question, and then they get like stage fright, and then they just come out with like a random statement like, my dad's got a blue car. And like, you're just like, it must be such an interesting job to do that. But I don't know how teachers cope with like trying to control all these like kids. It was a great experience, but yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm in my GP surgery, because I did think about being a teacher, a PE teacher when I was like back then. I just love sport, but I think I'm quite happy I'm not having to take classes of kids for school.
Kenny, thanks for joining us on Cult Heroes.
Thank you very much. Cheers.